Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Growth Visory. As always, I am your host, Jim Crimella, and I am so proud to have my esteemed guest, Brian Lee, on today from First Advisors National. Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Jim. How are you doing?
Very good. Now, I am usually terrible at doing introductions. I never do the enough service to my guests, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the ball over to you to introduce yourselves and let everybody at home let you know who you are, what you do, and he is doing some really, really cool stuff, helping out plumbers and HVAC with their financial advice. So, Brian, take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jim. So I've been in this space collectively for 25 years. I've worked extensively in the blue collar markets in terms of HVAC and plumbing business owners. I find those folks great clients because a lot of them don't have a knowledge base. They're good at their craft and everything. So I let them stand in their lane in terms of everything there. So I'm helping them with managing cash flows. I'm helping them mitigate taxes, being efficient with their resources, and really putting together a blueprint for the future. So everybody that joins our firm or as a client would get their own roadmap for the future. And so that consists of investment retirement planning to some insurance planning as well. So we have really the Ferrari of the industry, which is Goldman Sachs in our backdrop, and that so clients get access to that dashboard. They also get their own retirement plan, which is a dashboard as well. So we're simultaneously getting them involved in the process because at the end of the day, it's their money, not.
Right. That's awesome. So you have like Goldman Sachs as the backdrop of you?
That is the
That's really cool.
dashboard. Yeah, that's a
Okay.
dashboard. So there's a lot of planning nowadays is static, right? Because a statement comes out, you might as well throw it in the burn pit because it's not relevant. So this is in real time in both spectrums with the retirement plan as well as their investment lineup with Goldman.
Nice. Okay. So what kind of qualifications do the plumbers HVAC need to be at? Like what level do they need to be at for you to really consider them for a client? Like if there's a younger guy that just started, maybe a couple years in, he's maybe got like, I don't know, $500,000 to $1 million worth of revenue. Is that too small for you to really be able to help him or her? Or is that something that it really doesn't matter as long as they've got a little bit of experience in a profitable business?
Yeah, I'm looking for a profitable business. We don't have minimums as a firm, which makes us unique as well. There's a lot of open real estate between $100,000 of investable assets to about $500,000, and that's where other firms compete above and beyond those numbers. And so we're able to help people in the beginning stages of their business so we have different programs and different lineups
Nice.
with different third parties that I utilize to help. So if it's 401k planning, if it's employee appreciation or loyalty type planning, like we call them golden handcuffs, we have all kinds of different programs. We also help the next generation, which is their children, which is really key. You don't see that happening right now
Yeah.
with clients. That's key that you have relationships with both. It's good for attention. It's good for the families. It's good for everybody.
I'd imagine too, like building that relationship when they have success, but they're not like too big for their britches per se. You really build that relationship and that longevity of them. So I would imagine the length of clients that you have go in years and years and years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've worked with some of these relationships for north of 20 years. I took a break. I was in personal production for 17 years with a Midwest-based firm. Really learned the industry and the business, more of a risk management perspective initially in my career. Then it evolved to 2 stints of sales leadership. So I was training and mentoring advisors basically in our space to teach them the business. Realized then that, what I really missed the engagement with clients and working with them. So I came back about 3 years ago so pretty much started from ground zero and built up from there.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. Fantastic. So pivoting just a little bit. So if you could describe kind of what's happening in the market right now, right? Like I know with everything that's going on, the markets are they down? Are the tariffs affecting us? All this stuff that's going on. What's happening in the market that's making either the landscape for you to grow your business more challenging or maybe even easier to operate in?
Absolutely. So I think first and foremost, it really begins with an education. People understand certain aspects, but my goal first and foremost when we're building those plans for the blueprint for the client is understand the value of their money and the impacts. When all the strategies that we're working are long-term plays, this is really just noise in the market from the standpoint of, yes, there's tariffs, and yes, there's taxation. Yes, our interest rates are a little bit higher. I think what we're going to see in the summertime and going into the fall months, these tariffs will work themselves out from the standpoint. I think we'll see reduction at the pump. I think we'll see reduction in interest rates. All the indicators. I'm fortunate to have Goldman Sachs research team behind. So a lot of the information that I'm looking at are giving me positive indicators. It looks like we're very much in an upward trajectory for 2025 still. So I don't see any. There's a lot of talks about recession. I don't really foresee that happening. I think it's a good time actually for people to really review their situations, to understand where they're at and what they're. Everybody still remembers 2008 and 2009. Probably one of the worst times to be sitting in my seat.
Yeah. Unless
You
you were
know,
sitting in where I was. I owned a
it,
mortgage company during that
oh,
time. So my seat was a little hotter.
yeah, exactly. When people are losing 40% of their portfolios, we're down about 10%. Not anything to be concerned about at this juncture. And we also have a lot of newsletters and trade people active in the industry from analysts. So we have a lot of research. We're finding if you buy good quality stuff, at the end of the day, it will live to fight another day. So we follow really Warren Buffett's philosophy on the market.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's proven to do really well for him. So I can't imagine it not proving well still. And you buy good, solid companies and they'll figure out a way to weather storms because economics in the market is cyclical, right? It's like you have your good times, you have your waning times, and then you'll come back to good times. So it's a great strategy. Very good strategy. Okay. So in this, it's sort of like I've spoken to a lot of financial advisors over the years. I've gotten to know quite a few of them. Very few have really decided to niche down into an industry base like you have, where it's that home service businesses, plumbers, HVAC, things like that. Have you noticed, is that sort of like finding your own blue ocean in the sea of, I know like financial advisory is huge, but sort of identifying, hey, this is the pond I'm going to fish in. Has that really cut out a lot of the competition? Or are you finding that it's just as competitive, whether it's this and I just really like helping these people and that's why I chose it, or the motivation behind it?
I really, I grew up more around the contractors market and space and everything, so I understand those relationships. When I was in personal production, I spent a lot of time prospecting that market, really liked the contractors market in general because I felt that a lot of people pass them up. They make really good money. They're essential. Those two spaces, HVAC and plumbing, regardless of the economy, regardless of the situation, you got to definitely find industries that there's a level of consistency
Yeah, it's
from
just
the
not
standpoint.
flashy, but it's been flying on the radar for so long. I know last, probably 5, 7 years, a lot of PE firms are starting to scoop up some of these home services and putting big portfolios together. Has that by any chance happened to any of your clients where they got, maybe they're aging out and they're like, hey, I'm ready to retire, and then a PE firm just comes in and tries to swoop them up?
I've seen some of that, not personally on my book of business. A lot of these groups and business owners are passing it on to the next generation is more what I'm seeing. And so I work across a couple different industries, but 4 different buckets of types of clients. But the HVAC space, yes, I know that there is PE firms, that are going, 3 times EBITDA overall in terms of acquiring these firms because it's almost like a lottery ticket for them where there's an opportunity to, how do you grow? You either grow by organic growth or you go buy another firm and
Yeah.
add and build from that. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're seeing some of that. It's a very crazy time for PE firms out there to be considering that overall.
Nice. Okay. So what are you doing right now to grow your business? Like what's your big picture strategy look like this year about how do I help as many plumbers, HVAC folks as possible? Like what are you kind of doing this year that either it was working last year so you're continuing, or maybe you're pivoting or adding on like new strategies?
Yeah, so in terms, I'm doing a LinkedIn strategy right now in terms of an outreach program, and so it's connecting. I am in the process of making some revision to that. So I post twice a day on LinkedIn and twice a day on Facebook. So I'm giving a lot of content and ideas around. So it's more general based, but conceptually, I've created content basically around the niche markets. So I have 7 common mistakes that plumbers make, and so I'm trying to give them an education first and foremost to differentiate myself. Another thing that I've been working on too is the personalized video or a short audio clip to these folks to make it more personalized, because in a colder climate, at the end of the day, it's all about building trust first and foremost. I could have the nicest presentation, the nicest overall, but that doesn't matter. It's about them feeling comfortable, because it's a very vulnerable time for people to divulge their financial health and financial wellness to me when I'm a complete stranger. So it's just trying to figure out that happy medium of building trust, and so it warrants them, getting on a conversation to share, how I can be a resource to them or bring more value.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Very cool. Now, do you have anyone on your team that's helping you? Like, are you just, I've got all the hats and I'm not sleeping because I'm working on too much stuff?
Yeah, I'm a solo advisor at this point in time. I do have 2 people in pre-licensing right now that will be joining my team. Gentleman that's predominantly in the insurance space that wants to get involved. I kind of learned the business from me and a few other advisors there's a lot of individual teams, but we all come together from an educational perspective, where we do trainings once a week as a group to keep our skill set up. I do have another younger gentleman that is in the sales profession in the healthcare space that's looking to join as well. So these are the 2 active people. And then I do have a veteran with she has about 34 years of experience. And so I'm helping her, mentor coaching her, to our space overall. Where I spent most of my career in the captive channel, I had product just manufactured by the organization that I worked for prior. Now in the independent space, I can go to the open market with insurance and financial services offerings. So it's not product specific, but I'm strategy driven, and not, it doesn't matter to me which company we go with. It's more centric around the client.
Gotcha. Just because of my background, things that I know, and have had familiarity with this kind of marketplace, both in not together. I've never done this together where we had financial services helping home services, but I have helped financial services and I have helped home services. I noticed that you have what is it, the plumbing blueprint?
Prosperity blueprint.
Prosperity. I'm missing a P. A plumbing prosperity blueprint. So when you're doing organic content, is it like eventually referring back to that?
Yeah, so the end result is the plumber's prosperity blueprint. And so the first step is basically building that relationship of trust, and then it gets into some content pieces to educate them, bringing out some of the pain points and everything. So the blueprint is what I'm offering them in terms of plugging the piece. So it's proverbially speaking like a puzzle where it's scattered everywhere. I'm trying to help them put the pieces of the puzzle together, because at the end of the day, people are disorganized when it comes to they got States Owned Fidelity, Vanguard, they're all over the place. And it's hard for me to understand what they have, especially when I don't have a relationship with them. So I need to understand how these all play together, look at the tax implications, and then make some suggestions. So I do things a little bit different than the industry pretty much is going to come over the top of the product or something. And I don't do it that way. I'm a fiduciary license advisor. I have to before I can take a dollar, I have to understand their situation and basically then put it together of, well, this is what we can do to improve the situation. This looks okay where this is at. And so I have to look at everything from a 30,000 foot view down to the ground.
Okay. How successful have your outreach been, like between LinkedIn and Facebook? Is it relatively the same results? Are you happy with the results, or are you looking for, I found with organic outreach that LinkedIn tends to be really good. Home services for me was kind of spotty, only because it doesn't seem like they're on LinkedIn very much.
Correct.
And Facebook, unless they're already in your network, it's kind of hard to get them in your network.
Yeah. With the cold outreach, the success ratio is about 20% in terms of a connection. So there's a lot of steam basically building momentum there. And I think that's one aspect that I'm considering, like maybe I need to put some YouTube videos together for more education. So I'm really trying to rethink, like what are some areas that will draw more attention, to them, where it's non-threatening. I'm not, I always joke with people, this is not an interrogation. This is just me trying to understand where you're at and where you need to go.
And to understand you, I must interrogate you.
Exactly. And
I
so
hear that. Have you ever considered or ever run any like paid ads to the blueprint that you're running?
I've done a separate campaign, and we're working on. I have another vendor that I'm working with that's created an ebook and everything, and so we're taking a different. That's more of a retirement planning play to more professional, and so that's in the we're in the finishing stages of putting that together, and so that will be more of a. We won't call that Plumber's Prosperity. We'll call it like a financial blueprint or a prosperity plan.
Right, right,
Calling
right.
it a little bit different. It's the same backdrop and dashboard that I'm providing, but so that's
Packaging matters. Packaging and
yeah,
messaging matters, right? So
yeah, yeah,
when you are trying to get a message out to such a broad crowd and it's, you're still playing that I want to talk to a person and have a genuine conversation. But when you flip it from one to one to one to many from a conversation, the only way to get results is to test the stuff, right? Like you have to put your stuff out there and then see which works and analyze the data and then reply to the data, right?
right. Yeah, I would say sometimes the challenge is it's you're going to get different responses and different variances and everything. So you have to. I've done some cold stuff. I've done some targeted. Like guaranteed appointments, and there is a differential between people showing up. The stats are a little bit higher, so there's a lot more legwork involved in a colder approach with, without
Yeah,
much
yeah.
guarantee.
I definitely think you're on the right track with the education part, right? That's what people want. They don't want in your face, hardcore sales tactics, high pressure, trying to close you. It's a conversation. And if I think I can genuinely help you, I'm going to say, hey, I think I can genuinely help you. And if there's a match, there's a match, right? But it's not who's the Wolf of Wall Street, the Jordan Belfort style selling or the boiler room from the 90s. I've been in those rooms. That's where I started, was in a boiler room setting, smile and dial type of call setting when I was 22 years old, 23 years old. I don't think that type of selling really works or is effective anymore. People
Yeah,
are just so over that and they don't trust. The internet, unfortunately, has done a lot of great things for us. But one of the bad things it's done is it's really caused people to mistrust because there's so many lies. There's so many claims that aren't substantiated out there. There's so many scams that, I mean, I'd say about 9 out of 10 calls that come on my phone are scam likely. I have no idea if they're a scam, but I mean, that's literally now part of our vernacular. It's called everything's a scam. So it's hard to
right.
cut through that noise.
100%.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that. So what are your goals for the next 12 months? Like, where do you want to go? I've got this 12 months from now. So if we have a follow up on March 18th, 2026, and I go, did you succeed? What's that look like?
Yeah, so I would like to grow the assets under management by another $10 million in terms of, I feel like that, I started basically all organic. So I did no lead gen, no. So I basically started calling on my old clients, that I had been disconnected for 6, 7 years when I took the leadership stint. And so I started there. Text messaging, believe it or not, works really effective with your warm market. So I started along those strategies. And then, over the course of time, just really kind of started adding more. I see. I'd like to grow by another 60 relationships for the 2025 calendar year. I'm at 68 right now, so I've done all that. Primarily, there's been a little bit of cold stuff in there, but most of my business in 24 was referral based. So I do a good job for one business owner. They introduce
Of
me to
course.
others and so on and so so it's I'm getting
Yeah,
higher.
referral for those of you watching at home, referrals will always be the best lead, the cheapest lead, and the ever paying lead, right? Like that's the referrals are the cream of the crop, but it's a matter of if you can supplement the referrals with cold outreach, what you're doing education, marketing wise, with the blueprint that you have, with the ebook that's coming up, all those things help move that referral base even faster, right? Because if you can get a couple of cold guys in there, some actual business off of it, you're going to do a good job for them. And then they're going to want to refer their people too, right? So it's 100% where I always tell my clients that referrals are fantastic. Never give up on referrals. Never, that should be a primary thing. But augmenting it with strategies or paid strategies, whether it's organic or paid, it's still cold strategies. But cold strategies should still be profitable, highly profitable, especially in your industry, right? Like if a client is worth thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars over the lifetime that they're with you. So paying a few hundred to get that client in is well worth the investment. but you have to have that both, and one speeds up the other, is what I found.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's all very true in terms of this is very much a marathon and not a sprint. This
Yep.
space.
It's just like your investment strategies, right? That you're talking about. You're in this for the long game. This tiny little blip of 6 months or whatever it is that we're going to be experiencing this downturn or however long, it's still in the grand scheme of what you're doing for your clients. It's a very small time period.
Right. Yes, exactly.
So, if I could ask, the next question is like, what matters more than anything else right now for you? Like, is it like certain aspect of your business? Is it, I need to get that ebook over the finish line so we can start pushing that out? Like, what's the one thing that matters most or more than anything else right now for you?
I think just really the brand recognition in terms of just, building that layer of trust that we were talking about earlier in the conversation. I believe that as I've done cold source stuff, years ago, but it's a different era, it's a different approach, different mindset nowadays that we're talking about. So just really rethinking what's it's hard to broadcast to a general audience overall. You got to be specific but generic at the same token, where it's not too deep, so people understand, what value do I bring to the table and how can I differentiate. And I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a financial mentor or financial coach, so try to get away from the sales, heavy selling and that mindset, and more to let's bring value to the situation. Let's regroup, refresh, your situation, and bring a fresh outlook. Second set of eyes. There's a competitor in there, not to destroy those relationships, but to keep everybody happy.
Right. Right. So you're augmenting the service that maybe they already have a relationship with.
Correct. Yeah. I believe that people should have different advisors in the relationship, because one advisor might be a peril to their situation, and a lot of people feel like I've known him or her for 30 years. I'm sure they're doing the right by me. Well, let's see what the numbers say, and let's make
Right.
sure that everything aligns. If it does,
Right.
if it doesn't, maybe I have some alternative ideas that will help.
Yep, and I've seen that a lot with like real estate agents. I picked up my real estate agent because he was a friend and not necessarily the greatest agent on planet Earth, right? It's a hard, especially if you are a successful business person, you do usually have a network, right? So there's a network of people, whether you're in a networking group so you can try and gain more referrals from them, or you're just a popular person, you're going to know people and then you're going to feel obligated. Well, I know this person. Well, just because he's a good golf buddy doesn't necessarily mean he's got all of the answers when it comes to what's best for you and your family's future. So I've experienced that as well, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, with the another thing that I'm looking at is I'm building these strategic partnerships, and so it's more of a referral base from these folks. So I help them with their clients, they help me with mine, and so that's generated some activity. I met some people in the payroll space and more heavily in the healthcare space, and some trying to synergize with those folks where they come in as experts or as my clients need their services. So it's a little bit more of a warmer introduction, there. And I have some business performance coaches that I'm helping out, with clients and such as well. So we'll see kind of what materializes there as well.
Nice. Very cool. So if you had a magic wand that you could wave and just solve one thing, like the thing, what would that be?
I think really it's just the balance of life. I think we all get stuck as a business owner when you're in your solo frame of mind, or it's all. I don't really pass on conversations. I kind of, not that
I'm
my
smiling
family's
because
not.
I'm feeling it. It's like I'm right there with you. I've been a solopreneur for a long time and finally have a little bit of a team underneath me. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm smiling because I'm relating.
Yeah, I think that I'm looking forward to the juncture where I had a support staff around me prior when I had my own agency. I had 2.5 people that were supporting my business, so I didn't have to yield a lot of the phone calls and do a lot of the administrative function. There's a lot of paperwork associated, and I know that in the day, if I don't do it, that hurts my revenue. But at the same token, certain things could be segregated out to by somebody else to follow up, because there's a lot of follow up after the fact. It's not just it's chasing after statements and all the other aspects. So those are the things that get a little tiresome. That I do those things after hours or in my slower points of the day, but just really having that more balance. And one of the things I realized, my health suffered because of being in more of a sedentary environment being on a Zoom. I had an office setting prior with different firms, and so I would drive into an office. So it's a little bit different working. I love the engagement with people, but working in a digital or virtual world from a home office versus going, so there's, just kind of getting out.
You save what, an average between an hour to 2 hours in commuting time every day?
An hour and a half minimum. I
Yeah.
was getting 45 minutes each way, with my corporate, I had a corporate job prior and everything. And I left that job at the pretty much beginning of 2022. So I've been on this journey now for 3 years. In
Gotcha.
December, will be 3 years. Loved the aspect of being home because there's moments in time. COVID opened. Predominantly, I was in the face-to-face business, sitting at small business owners, places of business or kitchen tables with people. And now I do business across the United States. I didn't have that capability before, so now I'm expanded across. I have about 8 to 10 different states that I'm in now with
Okay.
clients. So
Very cool. Very cool. Now I know we just finished talking about, balance of life, and that seems like a little bit of a challenge right now for you. Are there other challenges or blockers or frustrations that you're going to potentially hinder you reaching the extra 10 million in assets under management, the extra 60 clients that you're looking to book for the rest of this year?
I think the fine balance always is in terms of deploying capital out there and seeing what, it's tough because all my personal resources are tied up in my marketing efforts now. And so there's always that hesitation of putting money out there and am I going to yield a return on where things are at? I do have portion of my clients are in the Muslim religion and everything. And so right now, Ramadan is kind of a slower, this is the Ramadan month right now, but after that's done, that will open a lot of trajectories. Another thing, so I've approached things a little bit differently. I've added estate planning to my practice. And so that's been helpful in terms of I have to capture the assets because that's part of the trust documents that the attorney team that I work with, assimilates. But and so just really kind of getting different revenue centers. I don't really care where the revenue comes from.
Right. I
I
just need the
prefer it
revenue.
under, I just need the revenue. So I'm not quite where I want to be income wise, but I'm growing. I'm up 214% year to date from the year prior. So there is a growth trajectory, but not at the point where I'm thrilled yet, or
Understood.
comfortable. More of a
Yep.
we're getting by, but nothing. But it is a trajectory. It is a time horizon. The 3 year mark is pretty much the inching forward. So
Yeah,
we're at
everything
the
else is sort of laying the foundation for those first 2 years, right? Where you're
100%.
grinding, you're grinding, you're grinding, and then you finally got a little bit of extra capital so you can invest in the marketing so that you can get some of your time back, some of your sanity back, if you will, and then hopefully the marketing that you do choose to deploy is effective, right?
Correct.
Like as someone who I had a mortgage business from 2004 to 2008, and I was incredibly successful with it. All of my business was built on referrals. I had no marketing. If I needed business, I would go play golf as a single. And then, it's that I always get paired up with somebody or two people or whatever. And I would get more business golfing than I would doing anything else because, hey, what's your name? What do you do? Oh, you seem like an honest guy. I just spent 4 hours with you playing golf and you didn't cheat once. So I got
Yeah.
good at golf and I got a lot of business. But in 2008, market collapsed. All of my referral partners went out of business. So I'm like, well, I don't know how to market and now my money's drying up. So what do I do? So marketing, and I figured it all out. And 16 years later, I'm still doing it for myself and for other companies and friends, and things like that. So um, it can be a godsend from a leverage standpoint for time. It's speaking one to many and potentially reaching dozens of qualified people in a day versus maybe having one or two qualified conversations. It's a lot different, right? Like that you're talking about speed and trajectories and things like that. It can really catapult, but if you don't do it right, it can be it's just a big old money pit, right? Where it's like you're putting good money after bad money and you're not getting returns and there's not that forward momentum and you're not booking clients and you're not getting a chance to do what you've been put on this earth to do, right? So I understand the risk for sure. I've taken big swings and won with my marketing capital. I've taken big swings and lost with my marketing capital. So, there's definitely a give and take there for sure. So if you don't solve your frustrations, what implications happen? Just keep grinding and then you figure out balance later, or what's the plan? Or I guess not plan B, because plan A seems to be working quite well. It's how do you pivot current strategies if, let's say, 3-6 months from now, you're still facing the same challenges or blockers?
Yeah, so I think I have a recruiting arm to my business, and so I can grow by others, and so I get I get incentivized by helping others grow, so I can grow that way, in terms of opportunities in the insurance and in the financial services space. So that's one area that I'm thinking about. So I'm thinking different revenue centers to really, if I make X amount of dollars, like my estate planning really helped, move the needle in
Nice.
2024. That added quite a bit of revenue that I didn't have before. And so I think
Okay.
just, thinking strategically, I can project certain things, and there's certain things I have no idea in terms of what's gonna, I have high aspirations of people, but I think, staying consistent and in front of people, keep hammering. I'm a persistent person. You have to be in this space. You have to follow up a lot. There's a lot of, you're going to get 10 or 9 no's and one and 10.
Yeah. Usually it's after like 7 or 10 tries to get a yes or a no.
It's a 7 exactly. It takes a lot of steam to get momentum and everything, but I feel like you have to keep feeding the engine, otherwise it doesn't move forward.
Yep, absolutely, for sure. Well, Brian, I really appreciate the conversation. I've learned a lot about your business. The last question I wanted to ask on the estate planning before I forget it again. On your estate planning, is that still focused centric around plumbers and HVAC, or is that more broad? Hey, if you need estate planning services, I can help.
It's a broader stroker. What I'm finding, 70% of people don't have any formalized plans in place. And when are those important? When somebody becomes gravely ill
Yeah.
and they start thinking about their mortality, unfortunately. And so it's what I charge comparison with the risk for that client. And, a third of their asset base can be gone if they have minor children. There's a whole lot of mirror. I could go on for an hour about why, but
We'll have to do a second call for that one.
correct. Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do so. But I think there's a huge market out there of people that really need these documents overall. Recently, my wife's grandfather had passed, and luckily he had everything in good order. But there was a lot of considerations when you have different family dynamics, and that's really where a trust can really help people make those final wishes. At the end of the day, nobody wants to give their asset base away, to a legal firm or somebody. They want them to go to the next generation and help them. That's kind of what makes the world go round. So no better way to do so. And that, in my opinion, like one client situation recently went through a divorce as a minor child. There's a whole lot of reasons why that's important. Where I told her I had the opportunity to grab money for investment. So I said, first things first, let's get your estate plan in order first. Then we'll come back to those things. That's more important than anything else. And so it gives I can enter from different perspectives, and it's not as intrusive.
Right, right, right. No, that's great information and great perspective, because I haven't thought about that stuff yet. I hadn't thought about that stuff at all until last year when I'm sitting in the hospital room with my mom, and I'm like, "Where's your will? Where's the trust docs? I haven't done any of that yet." I'm like, "What do you mean you haven't done any of that yet?" And she's 70. How old am I? 76. It's
Exactly.
astounding how many people are in her boat, and I wish I could sit there and say everything's buttoned up for me. We've got some stuff in order, but there's always room to improve or to get things in place. Like we have the life insurance in place and we have a couple of things in place, but I'm now in my mid 40s, so it's like, so I gotta get all the way there. So
Yeah, it's one of those things that people file off for later. There's always the biggest thing with people, and this is the hardest thing to swallow as an advisor. Procrastination is the killer of progress, is what I say.
yeah,
A lot of people procrastinate. Why? Because it causes pain. And so at least we can, the easier we can make to reduce the pain level and the severity, the easier. So that's really kind of the moral of the story I found with people is let's reduce the pain and the effects for the later on. The stroke of a pen, a couple of hours will really change the situation. So.
Yep. For sure. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for your time. If anyone in the audience wants to get a hold of you, have further conversations, maybe become a client, how can they do that?
Sure. My direct number, and I'll provide my email as well, is code 630-509-4040. You can text me or you can call me on the direct line. My email address is Brian, BRIAN, period, Lee, Lee, at fanria, FANRIA.com. And then blwealthmanagement.com is my personalized website to give you a little backdrop as well. Happy to engage, help bring, a different flair and a different perspective to whether you're beginning or, nearing that retirement designation as well.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching another episode of the Growth Visory. Stay tuned for our next episode coming up soon. Brian, thank you again so much, sir. I really appreciate your time.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you.